Welcome, everyone, to our very next Leadership Conclave Roundtable session with some amazing leadership in the field of AI. Let's talk about this a little bit, right? When we hear about, driverless cars, we are hearing so much about ChatGPT. We've sort of been very excited about how Alexa responds to us. All of these things have been very intriguing to a lot of us. And all of us are aware that AI is really behind this entire piece. And what really is AI? It's a division of data and computer science where we're able to really program the languages and the data to be able to do a particular behavior which possibly a human has been doing in the past. And that's how it really brings in a lot of convenience to what we see around our ecosystem. Talking about how this has been really evolving over the last 1 decade, it's an amazing industry, right? Growing with a very, very rapid pace, estimated to be around 135 billion plus globally, and expected really to grow with a CAGR of 37% plus. It is estimated to be around 1100 billion plus from 2023 to 2030, and which is why we thought it would be really interesting to hear and have a discussion on this amazing subject about artificial intelligence and the leadership drive that we are having around this. With this, I would like to welcome some of the leadership that we have with us today, and I'll request each of you to please quickly introduce yourselves before we get on to what we want to talk about today.
Yeah, maybe I can go first, Shweta.
Yeah, please, Aditya.
Yeah, so first of all, I want to thank 3i for inviting me here as a guest speaker. My name is Aditya Agarwal, and I have over 15 years of experience in driving machine learning and AI-driven solutions and making decision easier for the top leadership also. I am associated with Chubb Insurance Company and working as a AI practice lead here. So that's short introduction about me. If you want to know more, you can visit my LinkedIn page.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Aditya, and happy to connect with you. Uh, we'll maybe request Nikhil to go in next.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nikhil Bimbrahw, and I am currently serving as the VP of Insurance Analytics at Genpact, based out of Gurgaon in India. Uh, Recently joined this role. Before this, I was the global data and analytics delivery head at Coforge for a couple of years, wherein I doubled the revenue and increased headcount by 120% in the 2 years I was there. Before that, I really built up my experience in companies like Accenture and Deloitte, primarily in US and Canada, covering all different spectrums of PNC, life, reinsurance, brokers, etc., and doing different aspects of both strategy, covering people, governance, operating model work, as well as implementation, whether it be advanced analytics, as well as BI, DW, metadata, master data management, all the way through the data quality at the source system level. So, been out there as a practitioner, both from an engagement delivery point of view, as well as done a whole lot of work in the area of practice development, as well as business development also. So glad to be here, and really pleased to be part of this fantastic panel.
Thank you, Nikhil, and we really look forward to some amazing insights from your end today. We'll request Mr. Reddy to maybe go in next.
Sure. Hi, everyone. This is Changa here, Changa Reddy. I work with Tredence. Tredence is an AI services solutions company. We're a 10-year-old startup in a way. We're about 2,000 people. I've been, data and analytics consultant for over 20 years now. Been in consulting all my life. I head the retail vertical here at Tredence. Thanks 3AI and thanks Shweta for moderating this, and good to meet you, Nikhil and Aditya.
Great. And maybe I'll go in last. My name is Shweta Singh, and I have been in the industry for 22 years plus. I work with Tata Life Insurance. I'm the Chief Data Officer here and an ardent fan of this subject. And happy to be on this side of the table, really listening to some of the leaders and the peer group to know what's really happening. So great. With that, we'll probably go in, and what we want to really do today is not talk so much about the subject as an artificial intelligence per se, but what it really takes to transform the landscape when it comes to the leadership that we have, across the nation, across the globe, on artificial intelligence. And with that, I'll possibly, request Aditya to really share your views. Aditya, what according to you is, really the trends which have evolved across the leadership in the last 1 decade? How's AI transforming the leadership landscape for all of us? If you could share your views on that.
Sure, Shweta. Thanks for asking this question. So first of all, to answer this question, I will touch upon how in last 1 year or in last 1 decade, AI is changing the leadership landscape. So in last 1 decade, if we see there are a lot of changes that are coming in, and I will touch upon three major changes that are most visible to me at this point of time. The first is data management aspect. So as we all know that AI is helping organization to harness the hidden value in data, and AI is getting data hungry. So hence there is a lot of focus in leadership on data governance program that enables AI system to operate at their full potential. So that's one of the trend that I'm seeing across, that focus on the data management is becoming very important. The second aspect of it is, which recently in last 4 or 5 years I am seeing, is a lot of focus on ethics and transparency while consuming AI output, because there are a lot of questions and there are a lot of uncertainties that business people come back and say that how we trust AI systems, how we trust AI output. So there's a lot of focus that we are building in to develop principles for AI ethics, such as what is fair, what is accountable, what is transparent, and ensuring that how AI technologies become more human centric and responsible. So that's another vertical that we drive in the company. And third most important thing is, leaders are expected to have multidisciplinary skills these days. Unlike before that you have to be expert in one area and lead the team, but now if you see the job markets also, we see a lot of new demands coming in for new skill sets, like ML ops, LLM ops, full stack data scientist, prompt engineering, fine tuning of LLM models, and so on. There are multiple niche skills you see in the market coming in, but a leader is expected to have breadth of knowledge in order to keep ahead of the curve. So these are some of the trends I see in last 1 decade that is coming very prominent and very much there. Now, how AI is changing leadership landscape. So if we talk about leadership, it's all about taking informed decisions, informed moves, groom their team to make more productive and efficient, and remain ahead of changing market trends. So if we see, AI is one of the tools that leaders are using to bring valuable insight to make faster decisions and faster than ever before. So that's something that AI is enabling today all the leaders. Using AI power tools, the focus is to automate routine tasks, gain productivity and efficiency, and freed up resources to do non-routine tasks and do more creative tasks. So these are the enablers that technology is giving to us, and AI is leading those technologies these days. In short, I will say AI is empowering leaders and helping them move faster than ever before.
Thank
So
you for that, Aditya. I think very well spoken. Data management, ethics around data, and with data privacy law expected to be across very soon. I think these are very important aspects of how we are leveraging information to drive, ease of doing business and whatever we intend leveraging AI on. Very very insightful, and how how the leaders today are becoming better and evolving with with the use of these sciences. So thank you so much for that, Aditya. Maybe the next thing to really ponder upon is that and maybe I'll request Nikhil to share his views, followed by Mr. Reddy. How do leaders look at the AI transformation across different industries, right? We all understand that there are certain industries where there is plethora of information and data available in a consumable format, and it's easier to adapt, and the use cases are more, more practical than some of the other industries. So maybe if you could share your views requesting both the gentlemen on how some of the industries have picked up and some very interesting use case, if you may want to cite, and also maybe which are the next set of industries which are really going to embark on this journey in the near future. If you could share your views, please.
Sure. Thank you for that, Shweta. It's a very timely question, especially considering that if you think about Gen AI is the flavor of the year, right? Ever since 2023 started, we've been hearing about it. It's captured the mind share of all the CEOs in all the industries, right? The way it has been, the way it has been democratized. And again, that is something that we are internally also looking at significantly. More recently, we just finished an initiative that we call Tiger's Den. Tiger being the name of our CEO, Tiger Tyagarajan. And so this was an initiative to really identify use cases specifically on Gen AI across all the industries, right? And what we found out was it's not just Gen AI, which is actually a subset of AI as a whole. If you think about it, AI has a lot of different, when we think about machine learning, when we think about audio intelligence or video intelligence, which is different from what we are calling, what we have been calling AI more recently. So if you think about it, there are lots of different use cases that have been out there in implementation, right? One of the things that we are actively investing in is essentially, if you think about the property and casualty space, and within that, if you think about catastrophe management, wherein we are looking to identify risks, whether it be related to fire or earthquake or some other peril, we are looking at there's a lot of number crunching that goes in there in order to monetize the risk, right? We are looking at different inputs like the geocodes, what is the location, what is the what is the history of this particular area, is it close to the any water body, which would mean there's a higher risk of flood or a hurricane or what have you. Looking at all the historical weather patterns, looking at the constructions of the various buildings, right? So there are a lot of different data points that are coming there. There are a lot of different numbers that need to be crunched, and decisions need to be made based upon all that information. So one of the key areas that we're looking to do is basically create that AI framework that gets in all this information, assesses it, interprets it, and we are in the process of validating it right now. Once that thing is done, the machine basically learns from the input that we're giving it, right? And really using this in order to create the output in terms of a risk score for those particular locations. Unfortunately, can't get into the details of which algorithms because that's proprietary. But for the veterans in the industry, I think you are already aware of which algorithms can give them the best p values, t values, etc. So that's another one area that we're seeing a lot of traction in, especially for the PNC space.
Mr. Reddy, you would want to share
Cool.
your views as well?
Yeah, so Shweta, I think it's a lot of industries that are B2C essentially, right? So where very customer consumer focused have kind of figured how to implement AI to drive better experience, better behaviors, or otherwise more beneficial for the businesses itself, right? I spend a lot of time with our retail clients here. So retail and CPG have implemented AI for many years to drive the overall AI adoption from customer experience, either it is store or whether it is online. I think all of us as consumers have seen some of the evolutions that have happened over the years. So I think the higher adoption that you see is more around the B2C, but of course there's ton of use cases. I think Nikhil talked about some of the use cases on the back end of the business. So I think around supply chain and also some of the ESG regulations coming in. There's ton of use cases that are actually driving how to adopt some of these regulations, and then also how to you define some of these metrics and be able to track some of these metrics, because these are not really rule based metrics that you can derive. So it requires a lot of machine learning AI to be able to drive some of the metrics, and also be able to look into the future in terms of where you would stand based on certain scenarios that you can foresee, right? So a lot of these use cases that I see personally is, I think among all the industries, retail and CPG has kind of pioneered because there's a lot of customer centricity, and some of the other industries are closing the gap because I think there is good templates for everybody to leverage today. So that's actually driving faster adoption in some of the other industries as well, right? Just to give you some examples in retail and CPG, I think these days, I mean, the customer experience is cliche, right? I mean, the price, promotions, forecasting, these every retailer has figured out how to actually do this, right? So, in fact, I mean, we probably have multiple variations at different sophistication at every retailer today, right? But there are some very interesting use cases around, how do you drive more like markdowns, markups, not just based on the historical sales, but then the shelf life for some of the products are also shrinking, right? Because you want to be able to serve fresh food. A lot of retailers today either are into grocery selling or otherwise are into some fresh food selling as well, right? So some of the use cases around how do you make sure you're able to serve your customers fresh food, because a lot of customers are also health conscious. So there is ton of use cases, and also some of these in terms of value that some of the use cases are driving is just crazy. If you have 1,000 stores, let's say in North America, so even at each store, if you're able to drive incremental gains, aggregate it across 1,000 stores, they're going to drive a lot of business value, right? So that's one of the things that I'm actually seeing in retail. Some of the latest, I think Nikhil talked about Gen AI. It has definitely captured, I think, everybody's mind share and imagination in terms of what somebody can do. I think there is a lot of use cases around knowledge management, and then some of the productivity in the ground workforce, right, and the field workforce, essentially people who are working in stores, people who are working in warehouses. How do we drive more productivity using Gen AI is another area where I can see a big traction next, I think, 1 or 2 years, where we'll see a lot of use cases around improving productivity through Gen AI in some of the field workforce. That's another area where we are also focused on doing few things, and we are also seeing a lot of interest in our clients as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Nikhil and Nat. I think very interesting points, right? The weather and climate industry, the B2C, the widespread use of the chat GPT and its equivalent of what various, use cases have evolved, whether it's in the technology team, whether it's the marketing team, whether it is in the sales and distribution, or whether it is in terms of the consumers, of course, and with consumers being the focus. Uh, Wherever we have mass data available, this becomes a very interesting use case. And thank you so much for that. With that, we move on to the next aspect we may want to just talk about a little bit, which is about, and I'll possibly request Nikhil to share his views on this. When it comes to the process, how we really embark on this journey of AIA and the Gen AI. What, according to you, are the various steps or the aspects which have to be kept in mind? Right from the start, where the idea incubates in its in the mind, from it going into a incubation cell to it eventually reaching a stage where it is implemented and we have some ROI around it. So, what are the various aspects one should really keep in mind in this entire process that any organization, needs to undertake?
For sure. So one of the way we do it is a couple of things, right? One of them is you start off with your typical assessment of where you are today, right? That's your current state. At the same time, you need to identify what is that future state towards which you want to go towards. What are those capabilities that you want to create? And a big aspect of that is your return on investment, right? The obviously everybody wants higher return, but it comes along with a significant investment as well. So the first step is to really determine along that spectrum, where are you in terms of, as an organization, where are you in terms of the maturity of the various aspects of how you're getting the information together and assessing it, which encompasses not just your data assets, your data infrastructure, but also the processes around it, right? The data governance that you've set along with it, and how literate are the people in terms of the importance of the data, right from from the end user, the frontline users, as well as the CXOs. So there are different elements that we take into mind when we do this kind of when we create this advisory framework. And once we have established that you are at a certain stage and you want to get to a certain level, then we identify what are the capabilities that the organization needs to create, again, either from a operating model point of view or from a technology investment point of view. And typically, there's a lot of investment that needs to go into cleaning up the data at the source system level, at the ETL level, at the data lakes and ODS level, right? And that's a significant investment in a lot of cases. And when we talk about the specific implementation of AI or ML or whatever model you want to implement, there's an investment linked to that also, right? If we take the simple processes that need to be implemented, and you don't have a lot of appetite for investment as an organization, we recommend you start off with a simple process automation using a VBA, for example, right? Which anybody can implement using Excel, and you can do some small automations right there. um, with with more investment, you can automate major parts of the processes, maybe going into the UI path or automation anywhere kind of investment. And but really, when it comes to capturing a lot of data and making decisions based upon multiple years of data or multiple gigabytes of data, whatever way you look at it, you really need to start investing in a data warehouse or a data lake, which is going to really then drive the training set and the testing set for your models, right? A lot of companies we find are enamored by the output of it. They want to get that output, but they underestimate the investment it takes in the data infrastructure part of it, which is really the 80% of the effort and the investment, which is driving that 20% of the output. So again, just to summarize, I would say return on investment. Think about it from the perspective of those two pieces: the numerator being the return, investment being the denominator. You can aspire for certain returns, but then the quantum of that is going to be determined by the investment you're willing to make. So there's a sweet spot right there, wherein as an organizational budget allows you to invest so much. So that's how we establish, okay, this is how much return we will expect that you get. And again, it's a longer time frame, right? 1 year to 3 years in a lot of cases, again, depending on the appetite of the specific organization.
Very interesting points. I think, investment into the given field versus the output expected, and the horizon really to see whether the net results or the inflows of the investment is coming in this year, or we keep a larger horizon from 3 to 5 years. Very interesting points that you brought in. I think a very important thing which you mentioned, Nikhil, is about, how well equipped the people are who are going to be working in this space to deliver what the organization is expected against those investments. With that, I'd like to maybe touch upon the subject about, and I'd request Mr. Changa to maybe share his views, followed by Aditya, which is about what are some of your thoughts on AI leadership brain trust? What are the critical elements towards AI competency enablement in an organization?
Yeah, Shweta, that's a very interesting question. So, firstly, just to put definition of AI brain trust in perspective for everyone. So, AI brain trust is a group of experts who are passionate about AI and leading the way in any organization in its development. So, these AI leaders share their insights, knowledge, best practices, which enables organization to stay up to date with the with the fast changing pace in the AI landscape that we see. And I believe establishing an AI brain trust is essential for every organization because it promotes innovations, new talent development, and collaboration a lot. Collaboration not only within organization but with academia, research institutes, as well as government and regulatory bodies also. And this group also helps in building AI competency. And if we talk about how to enable AI competency, it requires several critical elements, starting from defining the data strategy. So if we define the data strategy effectively, we can ensure that high quality data is available for your AI modeling and analysis also. Then defining infrastructure and computational capacity that you need within the organization, right? And right infrastructure enable faster training of your models and effective, efficient deployment of AI algorithm for your production systems. Then they also define the strategic alignment, which means AI, where the AI initiative must be strategically aligned with the vision and mission of the organization. Business teams needs to be flexible and adaptable, willing to experiment and learn from these AI experiments. All these are cultural and the mindset change within the organization that this AI leadership brain trust needs to bring into the picture. And then lastly, the most important point, bringing this AI talent, because building AI competency demands a skilled workforce and expertise in AI, machine learning, and data analytics. And this team works a lot towards building this capability within the organization, bringing this talent, grooming the existing talent as well. So that's whole. I will say that is one of the critical and one of the most important function. I will say you can call it as a function also within the organization, where a group of leaders coming in together, discussing in and making ensure that organization is enabled with the right tools and technologies with the right people to make the AI strategies and AI capabilities for the organization.
And Mr. Reddy, you want to share your
Yeah,
views as well?
yeah, I think his screen froze for a bit. So yeah, so I think Aditya kind of touched upon different aspects, right? So I think I go with a lot of what Aditya said. So it's one is of course bringing some of the people who are thinking about advancements in AI and how to apply in enhancing the business value. I think is key. From competency standpoint, I want to touch upon a couple of things. For us to be able to build AI competency, I think Aditya also talked about full stack, in response to another question. So the full stack today is not just the tools, technologies, right? It's also about building the right domain expertise and also, first principles thinking. So some of that is essential because, a lot of it is still needs to be proven, right? So, I mean, to business stakeholders, unless you're able to prove the value of whatever we are doing, a lot of it ends up more of proof of concept, proof of technology stage, and not really scale beyond that. Otherwise, even if it scales, the challenge has been with some of the AI, applying AI to some of the use cases has been around doing it in a smaller subset but not really scaling to the larger enterprise, right? So that's where we are seeing kind of fizzling out after good excitement in the initial days, right? So for us to be able to sustain that excitement, I think teams will have to have full stack skills, not just purely from technology standpoint, but the right domain expertise and be consultative in ideating, defining the problem statement, and then be able to take it to the market. Focus on change management and adoption, which again requires building strong networks within the business community. Those are some of the skills that we need to really build. Uh, Otherwise, the challenge is going to be the adoption, of course, is a big problem even now, right? So I think there has been a lot of progress when it comes to the maturity of the models and the cost at which we are able to run models today and the time it takes to productionize models. But if we don't focus on the last mile, which is the adoption of AI itself, it's going to be a challenge. And for that, what is required is strong domain expertise and be able to sit in front of the business and rationalize, reason out the value that it produces is going to be key.
Thank you. Thank you, both of you, for this. And with that, maybe Mr. Reddy, just one more question to this. What are the most important, checkpoints an organization needs to keep in mind, since we have come a little far on this journey, and therefore, what are the most specific crucial points where organizations are likely to fail, and therefore it's important to educate our viewers upon what is it they really need to keep in mind when it comes to these checkpoints that we have in this journey.
Yeah, so I think, I mean, its big part is change management and adoption, right? I think every use case that I think Nikhil talked about some use cases, Aditya talked about some use cases. All of these use cases, to some level of maturity, have been solved minus AI as well, right? But then the time it took and the effectiveness and all of that is, questionable, and also we could not have done, or otherwise we could not have produced the kind of results that we are able to produce with AI versus without AI, right? But how do we ensure these are adopted and the larger enterprise is able to sustain this is very, very important, right? So a lot of enterprises get into this mode of proving out value, and it takes too long to prove out that value that eventually there is that tiredness that kind of shuts some of these initiatives down, right? So I think the big focus for a lot of enterprises should be around, at what point do you realize that this is not something that we're going to productionize. This is something that we are going to scale and take it to other markets, right? So especially for retail and CPG, if you look at, every market is different, right? So if you are a global retailer, every market has its own nuances, and if you are a CPG company, it's the same thing. There is traditional trade in some markets, modern trade in some markets, it's hybrid in some markets, and some markets are actually evolving really fast as well, right? So in all of these, the use case that has worked in one market not necessarily going to work in another market. So defining what is the criteria for something to be paused or otherwise completely shelled out, versus what are you going to scale and take it to the next stage, right? So defining that playbook, run book, and get some alignment is going to be super important. I think a lot of enterprises really don't have a framework that actually defines that. So I think that's one area where enterprises could focus on. The second is, I probably mentioned this multiple times already, the whole adoption side of things, right? How do you make this part of the end user's routine so that the end user doesn't really have to bother that this is a model that is trained, tested, and proven multiple times before it got to production, right? So like the way we take granted when we use AI as a consumer is something that our end users, our business community will kind of have to, you know, kind at least have to start thinking that way, right? They don't have to know the nuances of how a model has been productionized, but if it is well integrated into their daily routine and their daily job description, that solves some of the adoption problems as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Mr. Reddy. With this, I'd like to really put up this question on this entire human resource that we have in this domain, right? With Gen AI coming in, with so many trends that are evolving, and data science moving on to being data engineering to really have everything to be available real time, right? It's very important to see how we manage the skill set within our teams, because it becomes very important that we are having the right skill sets to do, and this is a place and landscape which has been evolving month after month. We have new things coming up, and there are so many more techniques being firmed up. So a question to yourself, Nikhil, and followed by Aditya, if you could also share your views. How do you look at managing and bridging the gap with the people and the teams that we have who are working on this domain, which is our current team members, versus the new hiring of the talent which will be required to keep pace with this industry? What are your views in being able to manage and bridge this gap?
For sure. I think I'm going to take something that Changa had mentioned, which is the domain knowledge is extremely important, right? Um, at the end of the day, people need to recognize that we are solving business problems, right? The technology is just an enabler. And just like we had Java and .NET at one time being used to solve certain business problems, we are using different forms of AI right now to solve a different set of problems. The good thing is, as a company like Genpact, we come from a history of deep domain and business expertise, right? We have been managing businesses, the business processes for a number of these organizations for a long time. So we understand the intricacies of those business problems. At this point of time, what we have been doing is really investing in upskilling our existing employees with informing them about what's going on in the market, not just from a Gen AI perspective, which is the hot thing, but also AI as a whole, right? What does that really mean? What aspect of that is Gen AI? Where do large language models really fit in into the entire spectrum of natural language processing models, as well as what are some of the use cases for which these models are appropriate versus others. So helping them understand not just the terminology, but also understand how the process works and where they fit into that particular process. So there has been a lot of investment into that. There's ongoing. I mentioned the Tigers Den initiative, right, which is helping them think through the use cases, right, which is implementation of the techniques and the terminology that you've learned to say, well, which business problems I feel I can solve now, which I was solving probably without using AI in the past, right? And so those are aspects that a lot of investment is being done into. The advantage of it is, again, AI as a stream. If you think about it as part of data science, we have been doing a lot of predictive and prescriptive analytics in a variety of different use cases. So it just picks up from there, and we are able to drive drive faster adoption based upon the foundation that has already been created.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Nikhil. I think very interesting. The domain knowledge, of course, at the first day is one of the most critical aspects that we would want. With this, we'll come up maybe to our last question, and I'll request all three gentlemen here to really share your views on this. What, according to you all, are the two most important capabilities or the traits which the leadership team should have, or should be able to demonstrate, or should be able to cultivate to be able to really, leverage the science to its meaningful and value add outputs in any organization? If you could all share your views on this, some two key points from each of you.
Yeah, maybe I'll go first.
Yeah.
So I think, Shweta, I think, yeah, we touched upon a lot of different aspects. I think, yeah, maybe response to this question probably got, covered in some of this, but I think, uh, some sort of business value realization, right? So be able to define what business value is, I think is a good capability all of us as leaders will need to start thinking about. And the second capability, I would say, in terms of priority, is building very strong full stack teams, because it's no longer, of course we need specialists for a ton of things, but how do you balance, or how do you strike right balance between the specialists and the generalists who are able to solve very complicated problems that we have to solve today, right? So it requires strong data skills, strong business skills, and then strong AI ML skills, and be able to productionize, be able to sustain it. So all of this would require strong skills both from generalist side of things and also from specialist side of things. So two capabilities, again, to summarize: one is the business value realization, and the second is building strong teams, combining both generalists and specialists. In my mind, are the two capabilities that every leader should focus on.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Chengari. I think very, 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 very right in the aspect of saying business value at the end of it. That's what matters, and then the right teams to be able to deliver. Thank you for that, Mr. Reddy. Maybe we'll request Nikhil to share his views on the same. Nikhil, if you could unmute yourself first.
Sorry about that. Yeah, so certainly I think one of the key things when we think about our leadership capabilities, one of the key aspects is what 3AI is doing right now, which is have forums like this wherein we have an opportunity to interact with other leaders, right? Hear from them in terms of what are some of the leading practices that are being implemented, as well as hear from basically learn from each other, right? In terms of having a dialogue about what's working, what's not working, and where are some investments giving us better returns versus others where we are not getting as much returns. And it's important to understand the constraints that every organization faces, right? Changa earlier mentioned the B2C and consumer product areas, which are leading to a lot of use cases, because a lot of the data that's out there that is needed in order to create the use cases is already present in a structured manner in databases, right? That allows for easier consumption of data and easier modeling. Whereas if you go to, let's say, a life insurance or a PNC area, wherein a lot of the work is being done across different forms of media, right? Case in point, brokers still interacting with us over the phone or emails, and a lot of effort needs to be put into converting all that unstructured content into structured data, right? So from a leadership point of view, I think it is very important for us to understand that, as well as to convey to our clients that there are certain foundational elements of capability that need to be built before that return can be obtained. And that is as much a part of developing that use case as much as the technical aspects.
Thank you. Thank you
What
for
do you
that,
guys
Nikhil. I
think?
think very interesting to hear that as well, and your views of what is really important when it comes to the capability. Data, of course, on how and what form it is available is extremely important. And also completely agree with the fact that platforms where we can learn and share with each other and evolve together in this is an important aspect. Thank you for that, Nikhil. And I'll request Aditya to share his views as well.
Yeah, thanks, Shweta. So, in fact, I echo with Changa and Nikhil, both of you, in terms of how we realize, how we prioritize use cases based on the ROI realization. As an organization, if we see, if we go to different business users, they will be having a list of use cases that you want that they want to be there. But what is the ROI that will bring in? That's something will be required to prioritize those use cases. We can have hundreds of use cases in a list of to do, but which one to take first is should be driven by ROI, and what use case fit in for which capability, which AI capability. So not so today I am seeing that a lot of buzz on Gen AI. Everybody is trying to solve the same problem through Gen AI, but is it like giving you return on your investment completely to solve that problem, or pick some other problem which is not being solvable by traditional methods, but Gen AI is opening you to solve those problems and giving high return on investments also. So that's wonderful that everybody is on same page, that ROI is one of the key driver while deciding which use case to pick upon. Second, I will touch upon that we need to be continuously learning. As AI is constantly evolving, and we see that every year the whole industry comes to a new level, transformed a lot. That the older technologies that were there is seems irrelevant, because the new technologies that are coming in is more becoming a generic trend. So that continuous learning and making sure that your team also pick those learning aspects and be up to the curve ahead of the market. That's something as a leadership I will always aspire to have as one of the KPI for everyone, that you need to have continuously learning, and not only touch upon the older technologies, but also touch upon the new technologies that are coming into the market, and start playing with it, at least start learning and start playing with it, and start getting to use it in your use. So those are the two aspects. So ROI and continuous learning are the two first two aspects that I see always to drive as a leadership.
Thank you, Aditya. And yes, you know, learning and continuously growing on this path is an important aspect because it's really evolving fast. And of course, ROI stays the backbone of what you want to do in this space, and what works for what particular use case is extremely important to see that the end vision is really on what benefit it gives to an organization or an industry is very important. I think very interesting points. With that, we come to almost, closing off this session for today. The roundtable has been extremely interesting. I've learned a lot during this, and I hope all the viewers who are watching this are able to grasp some of the important aspects that we shared about and are able to leverage what we are talking. And we're always here connected with 3AIA. For anyone who wishes to know more, could always reach out to the 3AIA team, and we are always there to help support, guide in whichever form and fashion we can do it. I'd like to thank Mr. Changa Reddy, Mr. Nikhil, and Mr. Aditya for having us, being into this discussion to really think through some of these important topics and taking their time out to do this for us. Thank you so much, gentlemen, and thanks to 3IA team. And we hope this is going to be extremely useful for the viewers who watch this. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, Shweta, for your excellent moderation. And thank you, Changa and Aditya. It's been a pleasure learning from you.
Likewise, thank you.
Likewise.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye bye.